Artificial love, we just make it up, 'cause reality will never be good enough. And even if it was, we just mess it up, 'cause we already lost, addicted to the rush. I never meant to fall, all I wanted was a touch of artificial love. We just make it up, 'cause reality will never be good.
So we've previously checked out the Zeblaze Stratos 2, and that was actually quite a decent watch despite the price being slightly on the pricier end, at least for a watch of this caliber. And today we're checking out their newest offering from Zeblaze, which aims to break that mold. So the GTR3 today was sent over to me by Zeblaze for review, and although these were sent over to me, no money has exchange hands, and I will still be providing my honest and unbiased opinion. So this watch retails for $35 US, or about 160 Malaysia ringgit. So it's now almost half the price of the Stratos 2, which is nice, and you're getting most of the features here with the Stratos 2 except for GPS. So if that's not a deal breaker for you, do check out my links in the description below. So going back to the streamlined design, the GTR3 now doesn't get that rugged look as the Stratos 2, but it has a more classy, simple design. And if you're familiar with what Samsung does, so Samsung also has their Watch 4 and Watch 5, and this is very, very similar to that. So I initially saw the design and thought it was, more suited for ladies very well, but when I get the watch, it actually is pretty big, and even for my big hands, you can see that the watch isn't as small and measures in at about 50mm for the watch face, where if you compare it to Apple Watch, which is only a 44mm watch face, so if you have small wrists, this would not fit so well. And unlike the Samsung counterpart, there is no option for you to choose between 40mm, 44mm, or so on, so that's something to think about. So the watch is very light and is made out of combination of plastic body and a zinc alloy bezel to give the watch a more classy look. The watch this time also is really clean without any weird fonts at the front here, which is very good. And if you look at the side of the watch, the buttons are also very nicely crafted and very similar to the Samsung device with the red band here as well. So yeah, that's probably where they get their inspiration from, I guess. So the watch band here that we have is a 20mm silicone watch band, and you can swap it out as you like with the quick release pin, but the one that Zeblaze provides is a nice strap with a nice fitting shape, so the watch will stay in shape like this and you can wear them. So below that, you're also going to get a standard issue sensors. And if I were to look at the Samsung Watch 4 design, it really looks very similar here as well, which includes your heart rate sensor, your SpO2 sensor, and above that you're also going to get standard magnetic pins for charging the watch, and that's pretty much it. So the screen here this time doesn't get an AMOLED display, and instead you're going to get a 1.32-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 360 by 360, which is plenty sharp in my opinion, and I have no complaints about the general sharpness of the watch. However, I'm more concerned about the fonts that are used inside the watch, which is not very consistent, and in the menu you can see that the fonts are fine, but when you go into the sports menu there is a different font, which looks less flattering. So the silicone strap here also has a very smooth finish and slides smoothly without feeling like it's dragging on or pulling on the rubber, which is really good because for some straps, unfortunately, they have that very grippy rubber type, and it makes it very difficult to slide the strap in. But in the case of the Zeblaze, it fits in very easily and is very smooth as well. So speaking of the battery life, I just ran out of battery mid filming this, and yeah, that's how it works. So I had this watch about a week now, and I've been getting notifications on it and using it for sleeps and exercise as well. So I think overall the battery life is pretty good, and the feature set isn't too complicated as well, so it's not something uncommon. So with typical use, you're gonna get about 15 days of use, and with notification health tracking, I'm averaging about 7 days now, and honestly the battery is quite resilient and you honestly rarely see it drop. But charging the watch takes about 1.5 hours. So don't mind me, but I'm just gonna leave the charger on while I'm filming this. But the watch here is pretty basic, and I'm quite confused with their marketing on their website, because some place on their website say this has a Bluetooth 5.3, another place say it's run BLE, which is Bluetooth Low Energy 5.2, and another place says it's BLE 5.0. So I think Zeblaze needs to get their story right and publishes the right specs. But nevertheless, for a watch like this, it really doesn't matter whether you run Bluetooth 5.0 or what, because it doesn't connect to any sensors, no Bluetooth sensors, no N+ sensors, so pretty much used for data syncing only. So the watch is also rated IP68 dust and water resistant, which is pretty good for a water resistant rating. However, out of the exactly 70 sports mode that you have, yes, I've counted them, swimming is not one of the sports you can track, and with that you need to get the Zeblaze Swim instead. Other standard features of this watch includes the 24/7 heart rate monitor, SpO2 monitoring, sleep tracking, a skin temperature monitoring, and also a blood pressure monitoring, which I think should be taken with a grain of salt, since these may not be as accurate as a dedicated blood pressure machine. Another feature you can get here is a call feature, and you can make calls directly from the watch itself, but unfortunately I didn't manage to get that working, since you need to connect two devices in your Bluetooth profile, and in my phone, unfortunately the second Bluetooth profile never appeared. Then I read the app, it says that you have to make calls within 1 to 10 minutes and the feature will be turned off. I think this is needlessly complicated, and if Zeblaze wants to market this as a watch to make calls, then just do that without having users to connect here, connect two Bluetooth profiles. Every 10 minutes you gotta connect it again. And from my test, even when my watch is connected to the app and a phone call comes in, it doesn't even ring. So I'm not sure where I'm getting it wrong. Maybe someone can point it out. And finally, there is no GPS natively on this device, but you can also start workout from the phone app to track with GPS if that's what you want. So let's talk about the watch interface here, and it's also very straightforward, very similar to most of the watch interface we've seen in this range. So from the home screen here, you can just press on the home screen here and you're going to get quite a number of watch faces to choose from, and if you recognize some of them, it's from the Samsung series, right? So this one is also one. So I guess there's a lot of third party that is making watch faces like that. But anyways, all you get is 5 preloaded watch faces on a watch, and every time you can only sync one customized watch face to your watch. So you will have a maximum of 6 watch faces, and it'll just keep overriding the last one that you sync for different watch faces. So swiping from the bottom, this is where you're going to get your notification center. So I've turned it off so you can't see any notification now, but that's where you get them. And swiping from the top, this is where you're going to access your command center. So you can see my battery is still very low, where there are a few settings here that you can also play with, and in the middle here, this is where you choose your menu style, right? You can have a list view, Apple Watch type of view, or you can also have this circular view, right? So swiping from the left, you can access your menu. So this is where you can choose the different styles that we have just now. So you can just scroll it, and you can see, choose the apps that you want to use. And finally, swiping from the right brings you to all the different widgets that you have. So here I'm going to have my health overview, and next to that I'm going to get my heart rate monitoring. Next to that, I'm going to get my SpO2 monitoring. This is your body temperature monitoring. Next to that, you're going to get weather, you're going to get your sleep cycle, which I'll show you more in the app later, and also a remote control. And that's pretty much it, and you can't swipe back. So you can either press the button here to go back. So at the bottom here, you're also going to get your workout. So this has 70 different workouts for you to choose from, and you can see the scroll barely even moves as I scroll. And the funny thing here is that if I were to click on a sport right at the bottom, so let's say I choose a spot at the bottom and say I use that all the time, it doesn't get pushed up. So I have to always scroll down and find that specific spot, and I can't just have it on top. So that's something to take note of. So here you can see the font in the menu, and it's in one specific font. And if I go into the sports mode, here you're gonna see a different font which looks less appealing. So again, since the time of the Zeblaze Stratos, Zeblaze really need to consolidate their app, because for all their watches, they all run different applications. And with the GTR3, you're going to run an app called Glory Fit. And for the Stratos, you're going to run Zerona. And for Stratos 2, you're going to use Infoware. And for the Zeblaze Swim, you're going to use the Zeblaze Fit app, which is extremely confusing. And they should just consolidate everything into one app and stop using random apps like that. Anyways, these apps all have very similar features and functionalities. And here, of course, you're not going to see a lot of my health info because at one time I'm testing many watches, so I wear them in different days. So just to give you an idea, in terms of my sleep, I do track one of my sleep days with this watch, watch, and I can see that it's pretty accurate compared to what I track on my Apple Watch, and it's saying that I'm averaging 7 hours of sleep, and how long is my deep sleep, how long is my light sleep. And it's very similar to the other components, especially like your heart rate. You can go into calendar view, and here you're gonna see when I'm using the watch, especially for a run, and you can see what zones I'm in for some of the runs. Pretty interesting stuff, but you don't get them for all of them, right? So, and at the next page here, this is where you're gonna get your view of your sports. So in the next page under sports, this is where you can start your sports, and also you can start with GPS if you run it with your phone. Again, there is no GPS on the watch itself. And at the third page, this is where you're going to get all your device settings, so you can set your watch faces and many other settings on your watch. And on the last page itself, this is where you're going to get some additional settings, and that's pretty much all the features you get with this app. So I think for the most part, the tracking is pretty basic, and I think they are somewhat accurate. Comparing it during a run, I can see that the heart rate is most of the time pretty spot on compared to the Apple Watch, and have a variant of 2 and 3 BPMs at some stages, and I do notice very occasionally the BP does go out of sync with the Apple Watch, but again, it's because of the reading time might be different between two watches. So for the most part, I would say heart rate monitoring is pretty accurate. SpO2 monitoring is also accurate. So if you're planning to use this monitor your heart rate for your runs, it is pretty decent. So ultimately, I think this is a pretty decent watch, and I think the styling is really nice as well, and the screen is also nice despite not having an OLED screen. But do take note that the size is pretty large, and for someone with a smaller wrist, I think it won't fit you that well. So that is it for this review. If you find this video helpful, smash the thumbs up button, share this video everywhere, and if you haven't subscribed, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.